Welcome to this edition of Meet the Candidate, and my guest today is Judge Sharonda Amamilo, and she is joining me from a conference that she's at. I really appreciate you making the time to come on for this conversation.
You're welcome.
I'm glad
Kind
we
of
got.
muggy down here in Nashville.
It's a little muggy here right now with the hot temperatures and the fire weather. Um, I've got four just general questions to get acquainted, and then we'll have you do a bit of a wrap up. And the first one I like to ask people is about their first work experience when you connected effort to pay and what you learned from that.
I well, I started out supporting my family in a kind of a sharecropping situation. I didn't really understand it when I was 8 years old, picking cucumbers or potatoes at 10. It was just, what we did to make sure the family had what we needed. But at about 15 years old, I started working alongside family members in a sharecropping capacity in tobacco fields in North Carolina, where I'm originally from. And by the time I was almost 16. No, maybe I started at 13 or 14, but it had been a couple of years. But by the time I was almost 16, I got to drive the tractor. So I was out of the fields and driving the tractor. And I hadn't really noticed before, but like in the years before, oftentimes the the owner of the farm would his daughter was about 2 years older than me, and she would come out sometimes and she would just be talking to her dad, and she'd be doing all kinds of fun things for the summertime, and I'd be working. And 13, 14, I didn't really get that. And then 15, I didn't really get that. But at 16, well, the summer of 15 before I turned 16, she came out and she decided that she wanted to drive the tractor all day. And and when she asked her dad, she said, "Dad, I'm bored. I want to drive the tractor." And I'm like, "Doesn't your dad have more than one tractor?" But she she wanted to drive the tractor, so I ended up not being able to drive the tractor, and she was driving the tractor for fun, and I was there to help my family. I was there to work for pay. And so I just kind of like, well, that doesn't make much sense. And then at the end of that summer, when at the end, my grandfather was the person that did the auctioneering for the tobacco farmers. So
Mhm.
he would actually be the one to go to the market. He came to Tennessee a lot, actually, to do tobacco auctioning. And at the end of that summer, whereas we as a family got our pay, and I helped my mom buy school clothes for my siblings, she's 2 years older than me, remember?
Mhm.
She got a new Camaro. And I couldn't oh wait, I got school clothes, me, and I helped my family, and she got a new Camaro, and she only came to drive the tractor when she was bored. So in my brain it was like something didn't match. And then
Mhm.
from that point forward, I was always very intentional what I was doing, very intentional about, what type of work that I was trying to get to pursue. Even though I had a rocky, not a smooth path, not a non-traditional path into college, I knew I had to put in the right effort under the right circumstances. So that's really when I started to understand the a value of hard work for, equitable pay so that I could reach goals for my family, right? And my family's needs.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of probably leads into the second question I was going to ask, which was I was fascinated by in your in your blurb in the voters pamphlet when you mentioned that you're a retired Army intelligence warrant officer. What led you to the Army
Mhm.
as an option?
Work, actually. I was married to a soldier, and at the time, when he transferred to Texas, to Fort Bliss, Texas, I was working at the U.S. Department of Labor as a clerk typist. After our first child, after I only had a high school diploma, I decided to get back then, and not everybody had a keyboard, not everybody had a computer, people were still using typewriters. So I took a keyboarding class at the local community college, and I worked in a clerk. I worked as a clerk, an office clerk. Back then, I was just filing papers and things like that. Um, I did that it was a cleaning company at a nuclear power plant near Apex, North Carolina. I started on a cleaning crew, and one day they came into the cleaning crew and said, "Does anyone know how to use a keyboard?" and I was the only one to raise my hand. So it just came in handy. Then I got from the cleaning crew and having to measure my Geiger counter every day in and out of the plant. I was able to go into the office and get more administrative work under my belt. And then from there, I went to DC and was doing a clerk typist job for the U.S. Department of Labor, where we worked solely on the cake claims for coal miners who had black lung disease from working in the coal mines generations. And so then I really understood how, you could give your whole life to something and it could cause you harm, and then you could have struggles and challenges to try and have a decent life for your family when you can no longer work at a very young age. I mean, these men were 30s, 40s, 50s, and they were, at that point unemployable. They couldn't breathe. And we were writing up these claims to help them at least have a modicum of dignity from the hard work that they've done, and some compensation so that they could at least meet their basic needs. And so from there, my husband got transferred to Texas, and then I just decided, okay, I don't strain our marriage, so I'm going to Texas. I'm gonna leave my U.S. federal job, and I got to Texas, and I had difficulty because I didn't have a second language, and so I decided to join the Army. That's how I got there.
That's a different path than most people, but that's very interesting, all the stops you had along the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then two questions that I know people have been asking judicial candidates because they're just a good general toss-up. But what's a book that you've read in the last year or so? Not necessarily work, but just something that was of interest.
Um, oh gosh, guys, I'm a partial book reader, so I'm reading different things all the time. Um, and I can't really tell you other than there's a book called Triple Package that I really I probably read it like 3 times in the last 2 years, and it's really about how you can how you look at a group of people who are like really high achievers, just that group of people, and they followed 3 different communities, one in Japan and one in out of Nigeria, the Igbo people, and they followed another. I think another was I'm not quite sure that group, but then they talk about the other people who are not in that group and what kind of characteristics they have. And I found that book fascinating because that's naturally how I operate. I kind of have an intentional way about going about things. And even if there's a challenge, to me, as long as there is like not an absolute wall to the objective, then I learn and grow from it, and I try and find find either help. Doing what's necessary means you do the best you can, and then you get help to do what's necessary to keep going, as long as you're not harming someone, right? So I that book is just kind of like a motivational mantra to, don't ever give up if there's something you really believe that you can offer in at the end of the objective. And so I probably use it as more of a keep me going and motivated in my intentional approach to life. Oh, here
Every
comes a noise making trash
okay.
can.
Well, we won't worry about that for you. As you can tell, I have a book issue. Every time I ask that question, I get another book to add to my list of books that I
Yeah,
have partially gotten through.
you will
And
really enjoy that book.
yeah, I seriously, I'm creating a new book list from judicial candidates. Another question I like to ask is about movies. Is there a movie that has stuck with you with a lesson, or just for fun, or something you're watching with kids?
Um,
What just a
I have the entire classic Disney series on VHS, and I refuse to get rid of it because we just had our seventh grandchild. Um, I don't necessarily have like a movie that just kind of grounded me. It's more of watching movies with my group. I know every year there's the classics, right? I've always watched, if I could, the I think it's Charlton Heston's Moses,
mm,
when that one comes around. Just because, I mean, things that talk about perseverance, right? Things that really keep people focused on, pushing through hard things for the right reasons, making the right choice for the right reasons, trying to do what's right. And when you fail, taking accountability for what for what harm you might have caused, or for just missing the mark on something. I don't know. I'm a deep thinking person. I kind of spend a lot of time just kind of watching the world around me too, and trying to see, I don't know, what can I do in my role within my lane. I think that's my approach to the law too. As an attorney, I was the same way. What do I know about this person that I'm representing? And if I don't know all the things that this person cares about, then I'm not going to do as good a job as I likely could otherwise do in court. And I'm the same way as a judicial officer. I try to know everything about the systems, the school systems, the medical systems, the behavioral health systems, the employment systems. I spent my career, I'm a career changer. So I was a tenured faculty member at Bates Technical College before going to law school. And it was because of something that was happening in the school system that I decided to go to law school to help my own children. And if you, I learned that for me, in order for me to make a difference, I need to really understand what my role is and the scope of my role. And if I don't have enough information, I'm committed to going getting it so that I can do the best job possible. So, whether it's movies or books, sometimes people give me a book. There's a book someone gave me called The Influencer. And it's not like a TikTok influencer. It's more about when you are a person working in a system, and the law and justice system is a system.
Mhm.
What skill sets do you have that you can best use to help everyone else do their best in the system to work towards a common goal? And I think it just helps to constantly be looking at yourself from different perspectives so that you can be a collaborator to the extent that your role allows you to collaborate in a system that is primarily adversarial, right?
Mhm.
So at but you can't get things done, you can't move things forward, you can't, come up with the best solutions that are applicable um, in a way that the most people benefit, or gives the most relief under the law available to whoever's in front of you. In my role right now as a judge, I mean, you really have to be open and vulnerable, and I believe that's the only way for me to continue to do the best job possible, is that I have to be open and vulnerable so that I can take in more information.
Mm.
I can have my mind changed if I hear something new, but only if it's supported by the law, right? It can't be just how I feel or how someone else feels. I've worked really hard to ensure that I'm not ever emotionally hijacked, because we do hard things. We do hard things. We have to make hard decisions. And if you are easily emotionally hijacked, or if you're not emotionally intelligent, people can sway you unduly. And that's something I've worked really hard over the years to be able to um, not be susceptible to. Having built my career in child welfare and representing youth in foster care and representing juveniles, I really do understand that people can, um, get very concerned about, tragic things that they hear. But those are things that, while we have to, pay attention to those things and be very responsive and decisive and actually proactive, and try to make sure we mitigate opportunities for those things to happen, we still have to look at the big picture, right? But look at the big picture and know that that's one story in the whole scope of things, and to make sure we're not just making decisions on outliers.
I I I love that philosophy, and this is an opportunity. That's a great segue into your opportunity to give a pitch for why vote for Sharonda Amamilo for Supreme Court Justice position number 5.
Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity again. And thank you for all of you that are going to watch and listen. This is exactly what I'm learning on the campaign trail, that the more people know about candidates, the better they feel about the choices that they make. I am the person the, who has spent their career serving the public. I swore to the United States Constitution as a soldier. I swore to the United States Constitution and the Washington State Constitution as an attorney getting sworn into office, into my practice. And now as a judge, I was elected in 2020 in Thurston County Superior Court and reelected without an opponent in 2024. I've spent my whole life serving in Washington, my whole career, professional career, serving Washingtonians in Washington State courts and involved in the systems that are most likely to impact people's experience in the court system. And I believe that that knowledge, working with families, families in crisis, juveniles. I used to do small contractor bond defense because there's a lot of entrepreneurs in Washington State, and sometimes they're just a little solo guy. And if their bond has a lien on it, an undue lien on it, then they need to have that removed as soon as possible so they can get back to work and keep taking care of their family. I also have educationally, outside of my law degree, I have a master's in business administration. My bachelor's degree was in adult education. I've tried my best to get to know people. I served as a defense representative on the opioid work group when I was an attorney. I serve on as a person. In my own personal capacity, I served on the board of Washington Trafficking Prevention because I was starting to see trafficking in juveniles and people who were subject to domestic violence in the cases that I represented. Now, as a judge, I'm on the State Sentencing Guidelines Commission for Adult and Juvenile Sentencing, where I work with legislators, prosecutors, law enforcement, and other PhD level scientists. And a thing about that is that when they started using all of these statistics, I thought, I really need to understand that in layman's terms. So I actually in 2023 went to Cornell University's online school and got a graduate certificate in data analytics so that I can understand what the numbers mean. So that when I'm reporting back to the Superior Court Judges Association, I really can explain to them exactly what we should be looking for in Superior Court as we're sitting on those benches and making decisions about people's lives and their futures and their ability to make plans for their futures. I am the only judge on the DCYF Oversight Board, and that is a Superior Court level position for judges who have deep experience in child welfare and Indian and child welfare and juvenile justice. I have all three of those experiences extensively. Before going to the Family and Juvenile Court, where I'm assigned now since August of 2024, I was on the regular normal trial track, and I presided over I presided over adult felony and civil trials and all manner of adult felony types of hearings, making evidentiary rulings, making sentencing rulings, just basically everything that deals with the court administratively on a board of judges of 9 judges at Thurston County Superior Court. We are the appellate court for Thurston County District Court. The city courts, which would be Tumwater and Olympia city courts. And we also are, of the 39 counties, we are the appellate body for state agency appeals because we are in the capital. So I presided over many agency appeals where I make a decision and applies to all 39 counties. So the nuance and the broad experience that I have, understanding everything that might impact how it impacts people on the ground and everyday Washingtonian. That's the reason why I believe I'm the candidate in my race number 5 to go to the Supreme Court, because I will bring the knowledge from experience, not learning from the record. I will bring the knowledge from experience of how it impacts people every day across our state. So please consider my candidacy. I would love to earn your vote. I am Judge Sharonda Amamilo, Thurston County Superior Court, candidate for Washington State Supreme Court, position number 5 at sharondaforjustice.org.
Okay. Thank you, Sharonda. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too, and safe travels home.
Thank you.